You are listening to the New Book of Daniel podcast. Hello and welcome to the New Book of Daniel podcast. My name is Daniel Bobinski. I'll be your host on this adventure. You're about to listen to a short portion of a conversation I had with Dr. Lynn Laird, a psychologist, speaking about issues of the day. And if you'd like to listen to the entire conversation, well, I'll leave a link to that in the show notes down below. But for right now, let's go right to our conversation with Dr. Lynn Laird.
And it's that whole idea of subjugating the individual for the so-called greater good, which goes along with the socialism and communism. And it's my belief that there is no greater good without individual liberty. And so the shift in worldview and thinking is much more, I don't know, it's insidious, because I think fundamentally the idea is right, that we do care about our fellow man, and we do step out and on occasion even make sacrifices for other people. But again, that's a personal choice to do that, and not a government entity coming in and saying, you need to, you must.
Right.
And so I can see that socially in just that one area, how people have had a shift in the way that they think. And so it really fits in very nicely, I think, with the socialist agenda, that we don't think about our own rights. Our own rights are now considered selfish.
You know, it's like you read that paragraph in my column.
I might have read a paragraph in your column.
This is coming out today or tomorrow.
Oh, well, then I haven't read it if it's not been out yet.
But we're on the same wavelength. I said, here's what we're told. If you wear a mask, you're protecting other people.
Mm-hmm.
But here's a psychology that accompanies that message. If you don't wear a mask, you're selfish, and you don't care if people get sick and die.
Well, and that's what we're being told. I mean, literally to your face at times. If you're not wearing a mask, then you're being selfish. And it's just astounding to me that people can think that they don't consider that maybe people aren't wearing a mask for one of a myriad of reasons, really.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wrote about that in a column back in July, where I linked to sources of women who've been raped,
Mm-hmm.
and were, taped over their mouth and that kind of stuff. And they tried to be good, and they put on a mask and went to the store, and they just freaked out. They just were literally, I think she described herself as being more wet from sweat than if she had just taken a shower. I mean, she was just stopping wet with sweat, and she had to take off the mask and leave the store.
Yeah. Well, and I was reading recently, one of our legislators here in Idaho had posted on his social media that he had just received a letter from a rape victim who, had had her mouth covered during the offense. And she too has struggled with wearing a mask, and that the muffled sound, of her screams during that time. And then she was in a store and someone said something to her, and when she was trying to speak, that muffled sound triggered her, and she about fell apart. And then this same legislator said, I'm getting more stories. They're coming through. I'm going to be sharing them soon. And that's what I've been saying from the get-go. I mean, rape, to me, that's the most obvious one, but there are so many other situations that...
You know what? I was listening to the one of the broadcasts from Central District Health here in Southern Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
And the medical director from St. Al's Health, I'm going to name the health guy, forget the guy's name, probably good reason. But he's some big hunchy poo doctor with St. Al's healthcare system here in Idaho. And he should be ashamed. And that healthcare system should be ashamed that he said what he said at that meeting that was broadcast. And you can go back and watch it on YouTube. He says, there is no reason that anybody should not wear a mask. He said, if you're in a wheelchair and you're on oxygen, then you shouldn't be going out in the first place. But if you're leaving your house you should be wearing a mask. And I just wanted to say, let's go introduce you to some rape victims, sir, and let you talk to them. Because this guy couldn't have been more cold-hearted, more ignorant of the situation. I was yelling at the screen. I'm thinking, who the hell do you think you are? And if you're watching this, Mr. Whoever you are at St. Al's, I hope you are ashamed, and I hope you get back and apologize for what you said at Central District Health. That is just asinine to me.
Yeah. Well, and that's the really frustrating thing for me too, is that let's just say, for argument's sake, that masks work the way they say they do. I'll give them that for this argument. Even still, there are many reasons that people cannot and should not wear a mask. And certainly people with post-traumatic stress, other anxiety disorders, and how many physical problems, lung diseases like asthma, COPD, heart conditions, anything where you're breathing, which, that's a whole nother topic because I think we all need to breathe. But serious medical conditions that could be made worse, exacerbated by wearing a mask, those are very real to the people who have those conditions. Mm-hmm. And to say that those people should just stay home, if they want to, sure. If they want to choose the risk of going out, why shouldn't they? We take risks every single day. If we get in our car, we're taking a risk. If we step outside our home, we're taking a risk. If we stay in our home, we're taking a risk.
Yeah. So
life has always been about taking risks.
I crunched some numbers yesterday because this column that I read, this deception, this fear. I crunched some numbers yesterday because I was curious. Because I saw a meme and I thought, I doubt those numbers. So I went and I looked up the numbers myself instead of trusting the numbers I saw on the meme. If you are under the age of 20, whether you have COVID or not, you are at a greater risk of getting struck by lightning than you are of dying of COVID.
I believe it.
And across the board, nationwide, no matter how old you are as equally likely to die in a car accident as you are to die from COVID at today's rate.
So we should all stop driving.
So yeah. So are we going to say that you're driving into our parking lot? So you're presenting a health risk to people letting you drive. We're letting people drive into your parking lot at your business. So we're going to close you down for public health safety reasons. This is just a huge deception. It's just asinine and the people are believing it. What's the psychology behind that, Dr. Laird?
Oh boy. Well, we love our experts. And, getting back to what you were saying before, now we just listen to experts. Experts know everything. And we think that we're stupid, apparently, that we can't do a little bit of research, that we can't use some logic and some reasoning. And especially when our experts have been known to have financial ties to certain industries, I think we need to be extremely skeptical and vigilant when we decide who we're going to be listening to.
Well, that's just a portion of the entire conversation that I had with Dr. Lynn Laird. If you'd like to listen to the entire conversation, you can look for that in the link for that in the show notes down below. I also did create some other snippets from that conversation. You can find those if you go to the New Book of Daniel page on YouTube. And you can also, while you're there, subscribe. And of course, if you want to leave any comments down below, you are more than welcome to do that too. If you'd like to reach me directly, do that by sending an email, newbookofdaniel@outlook.com, newbookofdaniel@outlook.com. You can also follow me on Twitter and MeWe and Parler, all using the suffix New Book of Daniel. And that also goes for Facebook, which is simply facebook.com/New Book of Daniel. You can follow my writings on Issues of the Day over at uncoverdc.com and also at Red State. Do it. Go ahead and subscribe to this podcast. Click that bell to get notified with new podcasts. I appreciate that. And this has been the New Book of Daniel podcast. My name is Daniel Bobinski. I thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next show. Until then, be blessed. you.